Long before satellites traced the heavens, long before rockets touched the edge of space, there were already stories in the East of beings who rode the skies, not in myth, but in shimmering machines. In ancient China, the dragon is not a monster. It is a sky traveler, a celestial serpent, symbol of power, knowledge, and the heavens. But behind the myth, there may be a memory of something or someone who came down from the stars. The earliest Chinese emperors did not claim to be chosen by the gods. They claimed to be descended from them. The legendary Yellow Emperor Huangdi, said to have ruled over 5,000 years ago, was born of a radiant being from the Big Dipper, traveled in a dragon chariot that breathed fire and soared into the clouds. According to the Bamboo Annals, when his work on Earth was complete, he ascended to the stars aboard his dragon-shaped craft, never to be seen again. Some historians interpret this as spiritual symbolism, but others wonder, is this an ancient description of alien technology? Let's go deeper. Ancient Chinese scrolls, like the Shanhai Jing, speak of flying carts, floating palaces, and chariots of wind and fire. These weren't vague or poetic mentions, or detailed, with accounts of flying devices that moved without horses, made strange sounds, and left trails of light. One scroll describes a heavenly vehicle that arrived with lightning, hovered over a mountain, and descended a luminous being who taught the people the language of the stars. Who was this luminous one? An angel, a god, or an extraterrestrial? In early Taoist writings, certain immortals are said to ride in cloud ships made of jade and gold. These ships had no sails or wheels but responded to thought and energy. The famous sage Laozi is said to have departed Earth riding a blue ox into the heavens, leaving behind the Tao Te Ching, one of the most profound spiritual works in human history. But what if that story conceals something more? What if Laozi, like Huangdi, didn't just die? He left. In 198 BCE, Chinese texts recorded the appearance of metal birds in the sky, hovering, circling, then vanishing. These sightings weren't written as metaphors. They were recorded in imperial records, factual, bureaucratic. Fast forward to the 1500s, when Ming Dynasty records describe a mysterious star lantern that descended slowly over a rice field near modern-day Nanjing. Witnesses said it glowed like fire but gave off no heat, hovered silently, then shot upward with a thunderous sound. And yet these events never broke the sacred thread of belief in celestial order. In Chinese culture, the mandate of heaven wasn't just a spiritual license, it was a cosmic contract. Emperors ruled as mediators between heaven and earth. But what if heaven wasn't just a divine concept? What if it was a location, or better yet, a civilization? Dragons, in early Chinese depictions, aren't evil beasts. They were radiant beings with glowing scales, often surrounded by clouds, stars, or orbs. In some carvings, the dragon's body resembles the coils of a spacecraft, curling upward in a spiral, with a humanoid figure at the center. Was the dragon a memory of a skycraft? A stylized retelling of the real? And what of the pearls the dragons are so often shown chasing? In modern terms, they resemble orbs floating spheres of light reported in thousands of UFO encounters across the world today. Coincidence, or a continuity of contact? As China's dynasties grew and the stories faded into myth, the core message remained. We came from the stars, and we are watched by them still. But not all watchers were benevolent. In later parts of the Shanhai Jing, there are accounts of beings who came from the heavens and enslaved cities, demanded tribute, or used weapons that split the sky and burned the stone. These were sky tyrants, not teachers. And so, a balance emerged. For every dragon, a counter-dragon. For every luminous guide, a force of destruction. The heavens, it seems, were never simple, not divine, not demonic, just far more alive than we once imagined. Across the seas east of China lies a land where the gods did not live above the sky. They walked among the mountains, wept in the forests, and vanished into the mist. In ancient Japan, the divine was not far. It descended on silk clouds. It arrived in glowing robes, sometimes rode in ships of light, from realms unknown. Here, the line between heaven and earth was thinner than anywhere else. The most sacred of all beings was Amaterasu, the sun goddess, said to be the ancestral mother of Japan's imperial family. According to the Kojiki, Japan's oldest historical record, Materasu was not just a symbol of light. She emerged from a celestial realm called Takamagara and sent her descendants down to Earth to rule. Her grandson, Ninaga no Makoto, descended from the sky with 3 magical objects: a mirror, a sword, and a jewel ilitum still held today as Japan's imperial regalia. But what were they really? Some believe they were spiritual symbols. Others wonder, were these advanced tools, devices left behind by beings who came, not from myth, but from the stars? Tales of the Tennin, or heavenly maidens, further blur the line. These were beautiful, glowing women who descended in feathered garments or radiant Hagarmo robes, often at twilight or dawn. Some stories describe them as non-human, others as travelers from the moon, or even from the star bridges. One legend tells of a fisherman who finds a Tennin bathing and hides her feathered robe. Trapped, she lives among humans until the robe is returned, and she ascends into the sky, vanishing into the clouds. These stories echo global themes: divine visitors, temporary stays, mysterious departures. But in one recorded case, the visitor didn't vanish. The locals called it Yutsurobunitha, hollow boat. It was round, metallic, about 10 feet high and 18 feet across, with strange glass windows, inscriptions in an unknown language, and brass or iron plates on its hull. Inside was a young woman with pale skin and red hair, holding a box she refused to let anyone touch. She spoke no known language. Her attire was unfamiliar. Her manner was calm. Eventually, the villagers, unsure of what to do, pushed the vessel back out to sea, perhaps fearing punishment or sensing that she did not belong here. Today, the story of Yutsurobuni is filed under folklore. But the descriptions in multiple accounts, especially the metal hull, windows, lights, and alien script sound, hauntingly similar to modern UFO cases. Have been a real encounter? And if so, was she from another country or another world? These aren't the only strange aerial accounts in Japan's past. Scrolls from the Edo period speak of Tenku no Fune, heavenly ships that glowed with blue fire and hovered above shrines. One 17th century record describes a great tortoise of light descending from the sky, its shell shimmering with a hum-like wind. Shrines were often built where these sightings occurred, as if to mark a landing site or honor a moment of contact. Shinto priests performed rituals not to worship distant gods, but to commune with spirits they believed were still present. Just hidden where? In other dimensions? In star realms? Or simply in the silence between thought and time? Ancient Japan didn't separate science from spirit. To them, the sky was alive, and what lived in it was not unknowable, just not always visible. And now, centuries later, we are beginning to look at these tales with new eyes. Modern researchers have found ancient Japanese carvings that show disc-like objects hovering over temples, emitting rays of light. Some believe these were simply stylized symbols. Others say they were recordings of events that could not be explained at the time. Even the architecture of Japan's oldest shrines, like Ai's Grand Shrine, shows cosmic precision, built and rebuilt every 20 years, aligned with astronomical patterns, and guarded fiercely for centuries. They are more than religious sites. They are time machines, designed to preserve a sacred blueprint. But what was that blueprint for? A return, a reunion, or a reawakening? Stone remembers what paper forgets. High in China's rugged mountains, hidden among ruins and half-erased inscriptions, lie ancient carvings, star maps. Not myths, not metaphors. Real, calculable maps. To match constellations as they appeared thousands of years ago. Others display star patterns not visible from Earth's current sky. One such artifact, discovered in a Han Dynasty tomb, shows a chart of over 1,400 stars, including binary systems only recently confirmed by telescope. Etched with tools whose precision defies explanation, these maps were not casual drawings. They were the work of people watching the heavens with intention. But why? And who taught them to read the sky so clearly? Let's go back further beyond the Han to the Shang and Zhou dynasties. In these early records, we encounter mentions of sky vessels and metal birds, of kings who consulted beings from the stars before battle. Some rulers claimed they received their power through visions, others through direct contact. One lost text speaks of the Feng now, the Phoenix machine, a flying creature made of bronze, gold, and smoke, which carried messages between earth and heaven. The phoenix is everywhere in Chinese myth. A bird that glows with fire, sings in frequencies only gods can hear, and never truly dies. But what if this firebird wasn't just symbolic? What if the phoenix was a machine? A memory of technology misunderstood? In the Forbidden City, ancient paintings depict winged chariots and glowing spheres. Scrolls describe light orbs that entered emperors' dreams, guiding them to build great palaces or wage war. These were not dreams. The scribes insisted they were visitations. And then there's the ancient Luban texts, named after China's legendary inventor. One version claims he built a wooden bird that could fly for 3 days. Some dismiss this as metaphor, but others point out the specifics. Dimensions, fuel type, wind guidance systems, the kind of detail only a builder would bother to record. Even Confucius wrote of a metal fish that swam through the air, its tail glowing red, leaving no trail behind. But the most haunting stories come not from royalty, but from the farmers, monks, and villagers who lived beneath these imperial skies. They tell of celestial visitors, not monsters or winged gods, but tall, pale beings, arriving in shimmering robes, riding orbs of light, who spoke without words and vanished without footprints. These stories weren't shared for glory, they were passed down in whispers, in mountain temples and coastal fishing huts, in lullabies and lantern festivals, carried across dynasties, even as emperors fell and philosophies rose. Through it all, the dragon remained, not as a beast, but as a symbol of fusion. Earth and sky, power and wisdom. The dragon flew between worlds, guarded the heavens, carried emperors, sometimes even taught the people how to build. Could the dragon have been a metaphor for an alien craft scene through the awful eyes of a civilization not yet ready to understand? Its coils resemble the spiral trails of rocket propulsion. Its breath is fire. Its roar is thunder. And it lives above the clouds, only descending when the world needs a shift. And the more you look, the more the pieces align, not just in China or Japan, but across the entire planet. Serpents in the sky, feathered beings, circular ships, heaven machines. Star maps too old to make sense, lest someone else showed them how. So what are we looking at? A global hallucination or a memory waiting for context? Today the East continues to honor these legends. Dragons fill festivals. Sky stories color temple ceilings. Ancient maps are now scanned with satellite precision, and, in doing so, you begin to see what the ancients might have known all along, that the sky was never empty. The contact wasn't a singular moment, but a dialogue across centuries. And that the stories of old may be the keys to the doors of tomorrow. Thank you for watching Episode 8 of Alien Landings Across Ancient Civilizations. From the cloud ships of Japan to the star maps of China, we've followed the echoes of visitors who may have shaped history, not as gods, but as travelers from the stars. If this episode sparked wonder, remember to like, subscribe, and share with those who still believe the past has more to say.